And what's going on, everyone? Welcome on into the Check Your Brain podcast. My name is Tony Mazur. There you can see if you're watching on the video on Rumble, YouTube, or my Twitter account at Tony Mazur, TonyMazur. You can go see my free episodes that are released every Wednesday. If you want more content from me, go over to Patreon at patreon.com/Tony Mazur. You find more episodes where I get a little loose with the language. I've gotten in trouble with that in the past, as we'll probably talk about in a little bit with my guest. But yeah, patreon.com/Tony Mazur. You get, there's a $3 tier where it has most shows with audio. $5 gives you audio and video. $10 gives you extra podcasts. And free gives you nothing more than what you would get on the free podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So again, go to patreon.com/Tony Mazur. Instead of talking about me, a former radio guy now doing podcasting and whatever else is going on, let's talk about another former radio guy. But this guy actually put words to paper, I guess, depending on how you come up with it. And that is my guest today is Steve Grillo, and he's the author of Gorilla Parts, Top Shelf Stories from the Most Famous Stern Intern. And Steve, good to have you on. Thanks for doing this.
No, thank you very much for having me on, Tony. This is pretty cool. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so being an old radio guy and working in morning radio, and I did it for I was in radio for about 15 years,
You
and
call me old motherfucker?
I'm an
Yeah,
old is a relative term, of course.
I understand. I'm unbreakable. I'm 52. Although the New York Post maybe have to be 58. I wasn't going to complain about that. I was just happy to be in the Post, and now I can go around and say I look pretty good for 52.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, you could feel that you could have looked better, but what time did you wake up? 3 o'clock in the morning during those Stern days?
Yeah, somewhere around there. Well, I worked up at 3 o'clock when I lived in Canarsie, Brooklyn. And yeah, but when I moved to the city, it was usually like around like quarter after 4:30, depending if I took the shower the night before or whatever. But I was never more than 15, 20 minutes away from the radio station by taxi. There's no traffic really at that point in the night. So
When we talk about those old radio war stories, and we mentioned about waking up and doing morning radio, I think a lot of people who are working in trades, and I work in the trades now, so I can kind of tell this from both perspectives. But when you wake up and you'll have someone who's like, "Oh, what's the big deal? You woke up at 4:30. I wake up at 4:30 for work." Well, yeah, but the difference is when you work in the trades,
what trade? What trade?
I can't say because
Oh, okay. You keep talking. I just got to plug this stupid thing in. But I'm listening now. I'll respond. Just give me a second.
Yeah, go for it.
Keep talking.
So when you work in the trades as opposed to morning radio, yeah, you may wake up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the 4:30 in the morning. But the difference is the hardest part of working in the trades in the morning is the alarm. All you have to do is roll out of bed, put some clothes on, and clock in. As long as you clock in, let's say at 5:30, 6 o'clock, you're not expected to be on right away. When you are working in the trades, you clock in, then you make your coffee, you have a couple of donuts, you bullshit, you have a couple of smokes, and you don't really get started until about 7 o'clock. When you're working in morning radio, when you roll out of bed, immediately the brain starts working. You have to figure out, what am I going to do today? How am I not going to piss the boss off? I have to be creative. I have to do this. And on top of that, you, unlike me, working in Cleveland and Akron, Ohio radio, which was the 30th something and now the 80th something radio market, you're on the #1 radio market in the country and on the #1 radio show, and not just the country at that time, but arguably the greatest radio show that's ever been around, the Howard Stern Show, in its heyday.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you walked in. Well, you know what? I had maybe, depending on what time I got there, I maybe had like 10 minutes before I got the phone call from Ronnie. And then after that, but the phones started ringing like before that, You got whatever time you got there, the phones were still ringing, They were, they were constant, nonstop phone calls from the moment you got in there. So it wasn't like a couple of times you get to sit there and close your eyes and wait for the phone call. Or sometimes I would just come straight in from where I was the night before and go sleep on his couch. And sleep there.
I've done that.
And yeah, so it was kind of cool because there was a legendary WNEW overnight DJ by the name of Allison Steele, And when I think I was there, she was like probably in her mid to late 70s, and she was
The
absolutely
Nightbird.
gorgeous. Yeah, the Nightbird. And I used to come in maybe from the China Club or Scores. I didn't want to go home because I didn't want to miss Ronnie's call. So I would always either sit with the Nightbird for a while, and she'd tell me stories about having sex with Jim Morrison and shit like that. And then I'd go in the back and I'd say, Allison, could you wake me up at like 5 o'clock? And it was the best alarm clock ever because she had that sexy voice. And I'd be in Howard's office, and she's maybe, Steven, Steven, it's time to get up. So there was different aspects of the morning, but once Howard got up there and then Gary showed up, it was like nonstop until at least 11, 12 o'clock.
So what was the typical day like for you, for the show? How scripted was it? What time did everybody come in? Because I know Jackie was doing comedy at night, and he would tell stories about him drinking, coming back from Philly, and basically being there as soon as the music was coming on.
Yeah. It was different for everybody else. Robin used to get there like pretty much. Sometimes she was there before Howard because she had to do her makeup. She had to put her eyebrows on, and it took a little while. But she also was a news person, so she's just wasn't just sitting there doing her makeup. She was getting prepared to do the news the whole time the show was going on. So she was amazing. She would just come in, and you don't understand, like, while she's sitting there going on the radio and making good radio, she's also reading articles and getting prepared for the news the whole time. And I would be so the first thing after Howard got up there and I got his breakfast and everything, I would start doing the news for Robin. I had to go through the New York Post.
By the way, was it the baked potato?
That wasn't until later.
Oh, okay.
He had to have that. I had to have that ready in his bag on the way out, wrapped in like a paper towel with 10 ounces of turkey. That it was disgusting. Because a couple of times he was like, "Oh, you have it." I'm like, "Oh, gee, thanks. I'd rather go fucking eat cat litter." You know what I'm saying? Like. So I immediately started doing the news for Robin because if I didn't get that done, God knows what else was going to happen in between me getting the news done. On top of answering the phones, on top of whatever went on the air, I was in charge of the guests. So I had to, there's a lot of times I had to stop what I was doing. So my goal in the beginning of it was to get ahead on Robin's news so I didn't have to worry because if it wasn't, she wouldn't get mad because she knew what I was doing, but I'd like to have that shit done for her at a normal time, so she had enough time to get a good article and prepare and stuff. So
that's you had a lot of responsibility for being an intern. I don't know about nowadays. I think there's a different balance. It depends on the station, depends on the show, where some interns basically just get the coffee and pick up Dunkin' Donuts, and other interns are essentially doing the work of all the producers. And it seems like you were kind of doing a little bit of the latter.
Yeah, I was never going to escape that intern status, no matter what. And after almost 8 years, I realized that, and it was time to go. You know what I'm saying? I should have been getting paid close to a six figure for the job that I was doing. If I would have done it at a major network, I would have been making six figures a year, and I was making $6.35 an hour.
Wow. In the 90s. Now, tell for people who don't really know your story, how did you end up getting an opportunity to be an intern on that show? That so many people were in college, they get internships, and you're working at a Christian rock station or you're working at a news talk station gathering, like you said, about news. But instead, were you trying to go after the Howard Stern show and be an intern on it, or was it just?
Yeah, I really kind of like, I guess it was more or less my senior year in high school. I listened a lot in the morning. I just happened to have a couple of free periods before like class started. Like my school day didn't start until like maybe like 10 o'clock. So just by chance, it wasn't something I chose. I would have rather got out early, but the last 2 years, like somehow or another, my schedule got I had the first two periods free, so I would like get there and listen to Howard in the car. And then the Channel 9 show came on. Yeah, the Channel 9 show would come on. And I think it was like Saturday nights. And it was because they were so timely because it was basically, they would write the Channel 9 show like during the week as they were going along. And then Friday, whatever happened that week, and then they go write it and then they go shoot it on Saturday or whatever they shot. Or they shot it on Friday and it was ready on Saturday, and that was the thing with me and a couple of my friends. We just go smoke a bunch of joints, get some drinks, and we couldn't wait for the show to come on. Like and it was just like the silliest, most outrageous thing you ever saw in your entire life. And And it kind of like it was so timely because they were just talking about this shit like a couple of days ago, and now they're doing a skit about it, you know. And they would sit afterwards and write whatever they were going to do, and then that's why it looks so kind of cheesy sometimes because they slapped those like costumes on and all that makeup that Ralph did and shit. They slapped it on. It all got made like in a couple of hours before the show was taped. It was like pretty amazing.
Yeah, the
So
Clarence
what?
Thomas one, if people really want to look that one up, my God, the with the afro that in the
And
lip.
the widest nose you ever saw. That's what I kind of wanted to bring up, man. You know, it's just kind of weird. I said this in an interview the other day, and I didn't realize how like it's just so amazing the double standard these fucking people have these days. Whereas all these people get canceled for all this shit. Like you said, you got canceled because somebody else dropped the N word. When meanwhile Howard was saying it, but in a different character. He had the Ku Klux Klan guy Daniel Carver on at least once a week, or he played it every morning before the show started. The answering machine that he had him on the phone all the time, and then he had him on Butt Bongo Fiesta, dressed as a Klansman with his actual Klansman thing. And then if you quintessential, that Clarence Thomas is another one, and he would always do Kingfish. Hello there, Robin. That's racist. But between him and Jimmy Kimmel both being on blackface, okay, where Howard was calling Robin the smelly N word. There you go.
Oh, yeah, the way
Yeah,
as Ted Danson in blackface. Yeah,
Ted Danson in blackface. This is him, Clarence Thomas, him in blackface. Jimmy Kimmel insulting one of the best NBA players ever, Karl Malone, in a full black racist suit, and these guys get away with it. But everybody else has got to suffer, and that's because they're on their hands and knees and they're choking down the fucking the woke people, and they didn't get canceled. But you had other people like Jimmy Fallon who did an innocent skit where you had like I guess it was blackface on Saturday Night Live, and he didn't get canceled. He almost got canceled. You know what I'm saying? Like he had to sweat and give it I had to cry on TV and like save his like ass.
well,
But
Jimmy
it's
Fallon's
okay, man.
Fallon's one was interesting because it wasn't so much that they were just coming after scalps at that point of, oh, you did blackface, you did Chris Rock in 2000 on SNL. It was more so that he normalized Donald Trump by mussing up his hair. And after that, there was such a backlash against him that for whatever reason, the fact that still people are listening or watching late night TV, but the people who are tend to be left-wing boomers, and they're like, yeah, we can't normalize that guy. And he had to come out and apologize for normalizing arguably the most popular president we've had in the United States.
Yeah.
And so they were coming after everybody at that time.
Didn't Howard go on The View and say he never used the N-word?
Oh yeah, exactly. He's gonna, and which we all know, no matter what the context, because that's what happened is over the last decade, it doesn't matter the context. Joe Rogan used the N-word. Yeah, he was either quoting a song or a joke, and they said it doesn't matter. So I thought the context doesn't matter. Well, unless you're
listen,
class.
I wasn't allowed to use that word when I was a kid. Okay, I grew up in a fairly black neighborhood where I used to hang out in the projects. And a lot of my friends that were white and black, that's the way we spoke to each other. Like we didn't call each other that word, but we used it as a friend term. Yo, what's up? Yeah. This, that, the other thing. It wasn't like I was like, yo, you see that dirty walking down the block? It wasn't like that. We was just like, it was like a friendly fucking term we used when we grew up in 1986 to 90, even in high school. But most of those people were my friends, and if they caught me using that word, I'd get a fat lip anyway. But if it was used in a friendly term, which a lot of my friends still do, in private, but it's not calling people that, but just using it as a friend term. You know what I'm saying? That's another word for friend.
And it's interesting because I've actually visited Marge Schott's grave outside of Cincinnati, and
oh my God, they did. I can't even do it, man. It's like, oh my God. Oh, hey, Seuss. Like the Billy West, the genius Billy West. That is some of the funniest shit you ever goddamn heard, ever.
I will say, though, it's kind of interesting because I've talked to Billy West a couple of times, and I don't want to say he shies away from those days, but I think in the back of his mind, if somebody pulls it up and says, was this you, that you were the one who was saying that, which we all know it was, but that's not who Billy was. It was a character he was doing that was written by Fred, written by Jackie,
Yeah.
and putting out there. And actually, that Marge Schott, it actually didn't sound like Marge Schott. It sounded like he was doing this Boston Jane Curtin impression.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, the Marge Shot sounded ridiculously close to Leona Helmsley,
Yes.
who, if anybody doesn't know, she was another racist, rich white woman that owned a bunch of hotels in Midtown Manhattan. They were left to her by her rich husband, and she was notorious racist. And Billy and his Marge Shot was very close to Leona Helmsley. I don't know if you remember that,
Oh
but it was
yeah,
pretty
and
much
that's
the
the thing
same
with Sherman
diatribe.
Hemsley.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my God. You know what's so crazy? So I don't know if many people know this, but it's out there, and I could say, but it's so. Um, Sherman was coming on that morning, and we were all excited because we're going to meet, George Jefferson, and he brings me, Ganji, and Stuttering John into the office, and Howard's office, and he shuts the door, and we're all like, "What?" He goes, "I got to tell you guys something. I just wanted to give you a heads up because I don't want your reaction. I didn't want you to react when it happens." We're like, "What? What are you talking about? Like, huh?" He goes, "Sherman Helmsley is gay," and we were like, "What?" He goes, "He's not just gay, he's gay gay." And it was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Just when he comes in the office, just don't make a big fuss out of it. Just treat him like anybody else." And Sherman was so friendly and so gay that he came walking in almost like Richard Simmons. He was like, "Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to meet you. Hi, what's your name? I'm Sherman. What's your name?" We were like, thank God Gary gave us a little heads up because it would have been like this.
So when he was appearing in this sketch that I'm playing just in the background for folks,
Yeah, I'm just gonna go. Keep going. I'm listening.
that he's trying to be Whoopi Goldberg here, but it kind of sounds more like he's being Sherman Hemsley in drag.
Yeah, you're not too far off of that.
So let's get back to the early days of the show, because with you being on Howard Stern was it 1991 you started, right?
Yeah.
So this was when Howard started really getting syndicated, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, just up the street from me here in Cleveland on WNCX. And now,
what was that? What was his name? He screwed me. The program director. When he was number one in Cleveland, he promised me he was going to fly me out and be a part of the show, and I got stuck running the board back at New York. Doug something, or he was a little guy.
John Gorman?
No. If
Not...
you remember his name, if you remember, like he was like, he promised me up and down I was coming to Cleveland, I was going to be a part of the parade and everything, and all of a sudden he was like, Gary goes, "I'm sorry, but they ran out of money."
Was it
and
Bill
goes,
Lewis?
No.
Yeah,
I think it was like a Doug or a Gill or something like that. Or anyway, I don't want to bore you already, but yeah, but I just remember like I was supposed to go to Cleveland, and Doug something. I don't know. It might pop up, but yeah, he kind of screwed me, and I was like so pissed.
So you had to run the board back in New York.
Yeah. I had to run the phones and the board. Like it was just like I was like so mad because like I love road trips, and the road trips with them were the best. Like when I first got there, I should have put this in a book because it was pretty amazing. It was after he predicted DeBella getting, becoming number one, and then DeBella's wife, who we met on the phone lines, divorcing him once Howard beat him, and then Howard said, "When after I beat you, your wife's going to divorce you, and then I'm going to put her on dial-a-date, and we're going to have a funeral for you, and we're going to have a divorce party for your ex-wife." And sure enough, just as Howard predicted, his wife left him, and they had a divorce party, and that's when Captain Jenks, who was who used to torment John
Also
DeBella.
gay.
Yeah, yes, super gay. That was the worst because that's all Jenks did all day was live to torture John DeBella, and so to put Captain Jenks on a dial-a-date with his ex-wife, that must have been so embarrassing. But it was I got invited. They rented a big bus, and I got invited to go on the bus. And I had just started, bro. I was there for maybe like a month or two. So to be on the bus playing cards with them, and Jessica Hahn was on the bus, and we stopped. It was the first time I got a lap dance. It was like some place in Jersey called the Home of the Lap Dance, and I had never got a lap dance before. All of a sudden, this girl, and the girls were butt naked. So all of a sudden, like I got this girl's vagina in my face. I'm like, okay, this is cool. And then at some point, I think I left and I went back on the bus, and it was just me, Howard, and Jessica Hahn. And it was like this intimate moment. Like I don't know why I was there, why I should have been there, but like she was just telling me and Howard about how much she loved to suck dick, and that was her favorite thing. And her favorite thing was with her boyfriend to go to sleep with his penis in her mouth like a pacifier. And I'm fucking 19 years old, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? How the hell did I get here? And then all of a sudden, the next day, I'm standing on stage in front of 10,000 people in Philadelphia.
Was that the classic one where she's taking a bath and they throw John in there with his dirty socks?
No, I think that was before me, but I have that picture. I could send it to you. It's actually, if you look at the New York Post online, there's a picture of me and her at a really grainy picture of me and her. She were like hugging, because I got a thing for redheads, bro. And when she was in her heyday doing Playboy and shit, she was like fucking. I was like, what? And then all of a sudden, now I was like, she treated me like a little brother. It was like really cool. And it was like, she used to send me weed. She used to send me money to pay for my Con Ed bill. I didn't ask. All of a sudden, I get, oh, you got it. This is from Jessica, and it was an envelope for $100. Hi, honey. This is for your Con Ed bill. Or she sent me some weed in like a box. It was like, she was like, still to this day, she's nice. We talk about it every once in a while.
Yeah, she was a piece back in the.
Yeah, that's the picture. That was the divorce party. Look how young I was. I was a fucking baby, dude. And she walked around like topless, like all day long.
That was right around the time. What was it? Butt Bongo Fiesta, which which is when I remember watching that as a kid, and I can watch it now, but I'm like blown away by different things. Back in those days, it's like, wow, I get to see tits, and Jessica Hahn's wearing this whole see-through outfit.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they had Daniel Carver dropping hard ends.
Oh yeah.
That's who's the Jew. And
yeah. You know what was crazy during the pay-per-view, right? He was like the biggest celebrity there. Like there were people surrounding him. And and then this one black girl, it was like, can I massage your feet? And she literally was there massaging his feet in the lobby. But the funny thing was, because I didn't really go to sleep that week, One morning I got up, it was 5 o'clock, and I was walking around to see if anybody was around. And then they had that little arcade in the Radisson Hotel. And there was like Daniel Carver at 5 o'clock in the morning playing Defender. You know what I'm saying? It was like, huh? What? That was just so weird.
And then of course you have, because you have Jackie who's up there, and Fred with the sound effects and writing everything, and then Billy. From what I heard, Billy would come in around 7 o'clock. He would do a lot of his voice stuff. He'd do Larry Fine at Woodstock. And
oh my God, it's my favorite skit. Allison Steele's on that. She narrates that.
That's right.
No, get out of here before I take an axe down to your colon. I told the Schwarzer, burn your guitar. I don't care.
Well, I felt out of place until I saw Sha-Na Na.
Yeah, exactly.
Those Vakakna schnooks.
And Warner Brothers get me out of the fucking movie. Wait, what do you get? I'll take an axe handle to your colon. Here, check this out. You know what I have right over here? I actually found an axe handle that I keep on my bed. I found it in an old house. It had like a thing. My buddy died, like renovates houses, and it was like up in the house that was like 150 years old. It was in the roof. I was like, all I can think of is, I'll take an axe handle to your colon. So I kind of keep it by my bed in case someone gets out of line. You know what I'm saying?
That's great. Well, I mean, Billy was so brilliant on that show, but was that a lot of people feel that was starting to be the beginning of the end of the show, the glory days, when Billy, there was a whole thing with, was that Tom Chiasano? Was that the GM?
Well, actually, it was Mel.
Mel, okay.
I remember the day he left, bro. And I can't, no one can goddamn blame him. He was such an integral part of the show. And all he wanted to do was be full-time, which was respectable. And I remember, because I was, there was another office I used to use adjacent to where Gary used to sit, where Howard's office was in the hallway. And I saw Billy go in, and they slammed the door. And I saw Billy leave, and then Gary came out of the office and then shut my door. And he was just like, I thought something really bad happened. I was like, what? He goes, it did. He goes, Billy West just quit. Just like that. Wow. And years later, he said something that was actually pretty cool that I take to my heart, and he'll still say it to this day. I was out in LA, and I kind of like got in touch with him and his wife Violet V, who still she showed up at my book signing on Saturday, which was pretty damn cool. We're still friends. She gave me a bunch of Star Wars shit, and we're still good friends. And Billy to this day. Obviously they're not together anymore, but they're still friends. But anyway, Billy pulled me to the side and sat down. I got to thank you. I go, thank me for what? He goes, you used to come in every day, every time you saw me, you told me how much the listeners love me, how much people are laughing, how much. He goes, then when Ren and Stimpy started to take off, you told me that you and your friends all watched Ren and Stimpy. Well, you taped them and you watched them over and over again. That you saw everybody in school wearing Ren and Stimpy shirts. That there was actually graffiti on the street. People were doing Ren and Stimpy graffiti. You gave me the confidence to leave. He goes, and because you made me aware because he goes, I didn't understand what the phenomenon was going on with Ren and Stimpy, and he goes, you gave me the confidence to leave, and then when I went to L.A., they welcomed me with open arms, saying, where have you been? And that's where he started getting all that work, Doug, the Honey Nut Cheerios, B. Bugs Bunny. I was like, oh, because of Ren and Stimpy, and he was like, I don't think even if I would have quit that day, I don't think I would have had the confidence that you gave me. And I was like, that's pretty fucking cool. To have
That's
that kind
great.
of badge, you know what I'm saying?
And for people who don't really know much about Billy, Billy wasn't he wasn't like Jim Cummings and these other voice actors who started. He was in bands, and
Yeah,
in between playing songs, he would crack jokes and he would do voices. And he was a horrible alcoholic and cocaine head back in the day.
yeah. And he was working at BCN.
Yeah, and then eventually he did end up working at BCN, got in touch with John Christofalusi when they were doing the New Adventures of Beanie and Cecil, and that's where he brought over and had to audition and did Ren and Stimpy, did both of them, but ended up starting as Stimpy. And yeah, but just hearing him on the show, that's why I got into Ren and Stimpy, because my dad was such a huge Howard Stern fan that it was like that's the okay that me when I was 5 years old watching Ren and Stimpy in the early 90s, and I'm like, oh no, that's a good show. And I've looked back and like, holy shit, you
That
got
shit
me
was
watching
twisted.
this? You got
That
me
shit is
watching. No wonder
twisted.
I'm fucked up as a
Yeah,
child
no
and as
shit.
an adult.
You know, Tony, you just said that, and it's something that I put out of my head, but it's just one of those things that kicks me in the balls. And it happened one other time before, but this one's better. Um, at the book signing, there was a girl there. I don't know if she showed up, but she had this. She was young, but she was hot. I wasn't hitting on her, but she had the most amazing artwork. I'm talking about tattoo work, like flash work and stuff like this is kind of like old school flash work. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
kind of a fan of that shit. And so but her shit was gorgeous. And I was like, oh my God, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I think she was friends with one of the owners. And so we were talking about artwork for a while. And then all of a sudden I was like, yeah, I gotta go. I gotta put my head back up there. That's my book signing. She goes, so you're Steve Grillo. And I was like, well, yeah. And she goes, my dad's such a big fan. And I'm like, I was just like,
Well,
man. It's
it,
like,
it's funny as a kid listening to Howard Stern. I knew Billy, I knew Jackie, I knew everybody on the show. I knew Baba Booey, what that was all about as a child. Because and credit to my parents that if it would get a little racy, they're talking about lesbians and scissoring and whatever, my mom would just simply just hit the button and turn on the
yeah,
pop rock station, not make a stink about it, not call the program director, not call for a concert
yeah. Not go to
boycott.
the post. It's so I had a similar thing because when I was a kid, like NBC was the biggest radio station in New York. There was Imus in the morning and Howard Stern all day. And there was you spent a lot of time in the car. And I wasn't allowed to listen to anything I wanted to listen to, but my dad was always just sports radio, just sports radio. And it was like I didn't care. I was just like I wanted to listen to music or something. And then my mom would start listening to Howard Stern in the afternoon, and he had this live commercial. I guess it was for some like type of gel or something that a lady would use if she wanted to shave her privates. Shaving or like
Blue
it's supposed
John.
to. That was yeah, it was I think it was called potager, and then the catchphrase was, and he would make a big deal. He go shave that thing with potager, and like the commercial was on like twice an hour or something. And then so finally after like 2 or 3 weeks of it, I go, Mom, I don't understand. what's he fucking talking about? What fingers he shaving? And I goes, that's it, no more Howard Stern, and that was it. I wasn't allowed to listen to him, which of course made me listen to him a little more. So it was like, so I had a similar thing. That was the most amazing. Watch Betty Thomas tilt the camera slightly as the conversation goes on. You know, and this was kind of the scene where, because I was here, this is kind of the scene where you really realize the brilliance of Paul Giamatti. Watch how she like subconsciously tilts the camera back and forth.
Because, see, you don't have a real good voice like I'm as Captain Frank and nothing, so we're going to have to practice it.
Well, you mean practicing here now?
You're not going to get bashful on me now, are you, Howard? Okay, ready? The way it's said properly is WNBC. This is key. Come on.
WNBC.
No. You gotta be more like this. Listen up. WNBC. You hear that? Kind of lift. The NBC.
WNBC. WNBC.
Wider.
WNBC.
See, look how the camera tilts?
In my mind, I'm hearing, it sounds like I'm saying exactly what you're saying.
No.
I didn't really notice that until you mentioned it, but yeah, no, I like.
It was so subliminal. Betty Thomas was great. That was one of my favorite times in my life. It was miserable in the beginning, but I sort of, when I realized how much I was learning, because I almost quit because a lot of the one PA in there, he was the key PA, which was the one who was directly in direct contact with the second. You know, that means that if you're the key PA, you've been on set probably a good 2-3 years. You know what's going on. And the key PA is in charge of the other PAs, setting them up for lockups and stuff like that. And most of the time, before you ever get on set, just to be a PA, you have to do at least 6 months to a year in the office before you can get credit. Not credit. Before they ever put you on. So I was not only just what they called a must hire, where I didn't have any experience. I spent my time in a fucking office, but this kid didn't see it that, and it didn't help the fact that I was rolling up with the star of the show in a goddamn limo every day. You know what I'm saying? So he basically tried to make my life a living hell, and I almost quit until one of my really good friends was like, so what do you do? What's it like? And I was like, oh, what a pain in the ass. You gotta set up, and then they're like, the grips got to come in with the electric, and they set up the lighting, and then electric's got to run the cables, and then you got camera, and then props, they got to come in, and they got to set everything up, and it takes like an hour. And then when they're done with one scene, they got to the construction grips got to come in, and they're gonna take the wall down, they're gonna move the wall, and they're gonna move the camera to another side for another angle. And I went, I didn't know that about 2 weeks ago. I'm like, oh shit, I'm fucking learning. I'm learning. And I sat there and I took that kid's bullshit the whole fucking time. And I wouldn't let him win. And I sat there after that. And when they call it the sides, I don't know if I have some sides right here, but the sides are basically a smaller version of the scenes you're shooting that day from the script. And it's like a little tiny thing you keep in your back pocket. So I would start looking at the sides every day and try to envision what Betty was going to shoot for that day. And it kept me occupied, and it kept that jerk off out of my head.
That's good. Well, yeah. It's interesting about that scene, of course, is because that predated you on the show, but Kevin Metheny, who was Pig Virus, they called him Pig Vomit in the movie.
Yeah, the actual Pig Virus.
And it's interesting because he ended up spending about a decade or so in Cleveland at the Clear Channel. It's now iHeart, but Clear Channel cluster. And my wife ended up working under him. Didn't realize that he's part of this movie, and she ended up working in TV eventually because that's what smart people do, is they get out of radio.
Yeah, exactly. No shit.
But she didn't even know. They're like, oh wait, that's supposed to be Kevin Metheny, and I said, yeah. And getting to know him over the years, apparently he hated, obviously when the movie came out, he hated it and resented everything about it, and people calling him Pig Vomit. And then eventually he embraced it basically the rest of his life. Yeah, that's me. I'm a big movie star. Paul Giamatti, this guy was a award-winning actor and everything. Yeah, he's supposed to be me in this. And then eventually he passed away in 2014. And I was going for a job interview there the day of the funeral. So
Oh.
they weren't really in a good state of mind when trying to hire me. And they're like, yeah, well, I'll just get half which just came back from Kevin Matheny's funeral. So I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not getting hired. And I didn't. But anyways, so you talk about the glory days of the show that you were on, the from the pay-per-view shows, the Butt Bongo, U.S. Open Soars, New Year's Rotten Eve. Eventually, the books, multiple books come out. Then you have the movie. This is all you. You're on the show at this time. Now, at this time, when you're a part of it and you're meeting all these people, getting pictures with them, are you just thinking of dollar signs? Like eventually everything's going to roll in for me right now. They're going to say, I want that Steve Grillo to do radio here, do this. Like, what was your mindset in those final, say, 3-4 years that you were on the show?
I was just having a goddamn good time. I wasn't thinking, this is going to be in my resume. I'm going to get a lot. Like I said, like I wasn't really. I was into the Howard Stern show. I wasn't like, when I was a kid like Howard. I'm going to be in the radio one day. I didn't know. I didn't see that. It just the radio station just happened to be 10 blocks down from where I went to school, And I'm a wrestler, so once I realized it was there, I was ultimately determined to get past that front door because I used to listen to it was like I'd be like, oh, Ganji, I can fucking do that job. Ganji could do it. I could do it. And John could do it. I could do it. It was like if he's taking people like that, he'll have a fun time with me, And so I don't know. I just felt like that's where I needed to be, and I didn't stop until I got there.
So you just kept going, and until it just wasn't financially feasible. Then
at that time I was like 27 years old. I'm like, where am I going with this? Wait. The moment like he didn't stick up for me, with Tom after like I was working 60 hours, I got paid for 30. I was like. The moment I told him that Tom wasn't going to give me a raise or whatever, he was like, "Yeah, well, that's just Tom." And I was like, "What am I doing here?" Well, I'm like, I've been this. It's like I was having a good time. Now I'm not having a good time anymore. Because once they started paying me, because like Tom realized that, oh shit, this kid's not getting credit at school, nor has he been getting credit at school for the past 6 years. If I decided to make a big deal out of that, I could have sued them for whatever, and Tom would have lost his job because that's Tom's job to make sure shit like that doesn't happen. And it would have been a big deal, and it was highly illegal.
Yeah.
So when he figured it out, he paid me the least amount of money and the least amount of hours that he could pay me for, just so it would shut me up. Because I wouldn't think that I wouldn't have done that.
For folks who don't know about radio internships, they last a semester, maybe two, not 8, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, however long you want to be a part of it. So at that point, you're just starting to take advantage of the help. So, because that's what happened. I worked at a sports station when I interned, and actually, it was the reason I didn't get hired.
Hold on a second. I just lost you. Someone just tried calling me.
Oh, there you go.
You there?
I'm here.
Hold on a second. Someone just tried to call me. Earpiece. Hold on. Sorry, dude.
No, you're good.
People call up not realizing I'm on the radio. Earpiece, speaker, Bluetooth. Oh, Bluetooth. Hold on a second. Sorry, man.
No, you're good. We'll put you.
I don't know why I changed anything. Shit. Damn it.
There we go. Sideways.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
What do I got to do here? Oh, wait. Down here.
Nope. You're muted. There we go.
I just like that someone was calling. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay.
Everything is good. Yeah, I was
I'm gonna shut this off. Maybe that'll do it. How about now?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
All right, can we jump back and do this and try this again?
No, I'll keep it warts and all. It's no problem.
Wait, hold on. What?
I'll keep it warts and all. That's what I do here.
I don't understand what just happened.
Keep it going.
I'll call you back.
Almost. We're almost there. Almost. Nope, can't hear you. You're on mute. We'll be wrapping up here shortly, folks. be a good time to get out the plugs. Make sure you get Gorilla Parts. You find that on Amazon. Go buy his book. Go check out Steve Grillo's book as he figures out his camera. And there we go.
You there?
Yep, I'm still here.
All right, there we go. I don't know what happened. So I didn't want the call to interrupt what we were saying, and I hit the thing, and all of a sudden the whole screen went crazy. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, so eventually you end up leaving the show. Did you have any resentment towards Howard, towards the gang, towards people that some people did you feel they stood up for you, some didn't, kind of turn their back on you? What were your emotions in those first couple of days, weeks, months, even years after you left the show?
I wasn't scared at all. I just I felt kind of relieved. I wanted to get out of there because I think if I would have stayed, they would have had to fire me, and I didn't want to burn the bridge. So I was very confident in my decision to get out. And I wanted to keep the friendship and everything. I wanted to be able to go back there and promote something if I did book a gig or if I did do something, you know. And you know, luckily when I got out of there, it didn't take too long for me to jump on the second season of The Sopranos, because the second AD on Private Parts was a amazing human being by the name of Michael DeCasper, God rest his soul. And he I was in SAG, I was in the union, so at first I went there to do a couple of days of additional PA work, which is like if they needed an extra person. And then all of a sudden he called me one day. He was like, "We can't stand Anthony Jr.'s stand-in. How tall are you?" I was like, "I don't know, like 5'4", 5'5". He was like, "Be here tomorrow. You're his new stand-in." And I had known Anthony Jr. I know Robin Eiler. It's so weird because it's a chapter in my book. My best friend was a stationary engineer at the Queens Center Mall, and his boss, his real name is Robin Eiler's real last name is McGreevy, and he changed it for whatever reason. And so my best friend worked for Eddie McGreevy, Robert's father. So I remember my best friend calling me up. He goes, "Yeah, you know Eddie, my boss." He goes, "Yeah, his son, he wants to be an actor. He just got like this part as this big mafia guy's son. It's going to be like Goodfellas, but it's going to be in Jersey." And I literally said to my friend, I go, "Yeah, right, Goodfellas in Jersey, like that's going to work." And then it turns out that Robert Eiler, as a little kid, like was a young kid, was like you. I used to rollerblade everywhere. I was on the Upper East Side, and that's where Robert lived. I was on the Upper East Side, and I was at like a rollerblade store buying new wheels, and he liked to skateboard, and he comes in and he goes, this is right before I started standing in for him. He goes, "Hey, you're that guy Grillo from the Stern Show." I go, "Yeah." He's like this little kid, this little chubby kid. I go, "What's up?" He goes, "Yeah, I think you know my dad, Eddie McGreevy. He works with your friend John." I went, "Oh shit, didn't you get on that new show in that's Jersey at Goodfellas?" He goes, "Yeah." And then all of a sudden, like about a month or two later, I was just standing. It was like so weird.
That's you have such a fascinating career that you just got to keep continuing on. And now we live in this universe where the radio show that there is no collective. I mean, obviously there's the Joe Rogans, there's the big time podcasts of the world, but it's hard to tell a younger person in their teens and 20s that when we grew up listening to Stern that, hey, there was at one time we had collective viewing. It was, we all got together, we listened in our car, we were late for school, we were late for work because we were sitting around waiting to hear what Howard's going to say next, what joke Jackie's going to tell in his laugh, and Billy's impressions, and Robin's news, and
if Gilbert Gottfried came in, or Pat Cooper, like those were like some of my favorite guests. Was when they came in, it was like all hell broke loose. You know what I'm saying? It was like it got Howard going. Like one of my favorite guests was Pat Cooper. Another one, God rest his soul.
Yep.
And he was like a hardcore Italian comedian back in the the 60s and 70s. He was like a big deal. And then it turns out he was a little botch. You know what I'm saying? He was a little crazy, and Howard used to love to pick on him. And it turns out like him and his family were always at odds. And then Howard kind of set him up one day and got his family on. And I would have taken that as a big stab in the back, and then they had this big feud, and then they made up. And then one of my favorite saddest things was, Pat liked me because he knew I was from Canarsie and shit. And he always was like, he always came in, "How you doing? How you doing, kid? How you doing?" And Howard got him so upset that he walked out. And he's like, "Go," he goes, "Grillo, go get him. He likes you." And I go to the lobby. I'm like, Pat, he's standing in the elevator, and all of a sudden he just goes, and the elevator doors close while he's hysterical crying.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know in years after he would go on O&A and other shows and he would just be ranting like, fuck that Jew bastard. Fuck.
Yeah, he didn't care. Yeah, no. Yeah, it was he was always really nice to me. And here's a little fact that he married Jackie's ex-girlfriend.
Oh, really? No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he had millions, and Jackie had a girlfriend that not too many people were crazy about. I didn't really know her, but Jackie was with her for a while, and then they broke up, and she moved to Vegas, and from what I understand, she hooked up with Pat, but like Pat didn't have anybody to leave his money to, so he married her. Just like he had to give his money to somebody,
No, that's
and she got all of Pat's money, from what I understand.
Didn't Pat Cooper have an album that was a takeoff of the Herb Alpert, the whipped cream, but he had it in just pasta sauce?
Yeah. It was a spaghetti, something like that. Yeah, I didn't know who he was. I worked at this crazy mafia restaurant. Well, the guy was mafia, but he opened up a Tony Roma's on Causeway Boulevard. If you know New York, that's like where John Gotti lived and shit. And the owner was this guy by the name of Joe DiCandia. He owned a place called Lenny's Clam Bar, which is still there. His son runs it. But I wouldn't say Joe was so much involved, but the meetings that they had in the back, they were all heavy hitters. I used to be terrified I was going to drop some like a beef rib on one of these like mafia guys, and I'd be put in a trunk or something. But so Pat Cooper's like picture was all over that, and I didn't know who that was. I'm like, who is that? And it was like it was all like the guy Joe was friends with all the famous people, and he had Pat Cooper's picture here, and he had it in the dining room, and I was like, who is Pat Cooper? The guy did some big guy with big glasses, and all of a sudden I started listening to Howard. I go, that's the guy with the picture of Tony Roma's. He was a famous Italian comedian,
I mean,
but, yeah, it was sad.
The amount of people who came through there in those days, and you being there during the absolute height of that show, because you think about before you join the Howard Stern show, it's getting its sea legs. It has the Channel 9 show. It has, it gained the popularity from being in afternoons on WNBC, doing mornings and stuff, and early syndication to afterward, eventually the fights against the FCC, and Jackie leaves, Artie comes on. And the dynamic, though I love Artie, and I think the show took on a different dynamic, it was definitely different from what it was when you were there. And then eventually they're going over to Sirius, that it took away from the mystique, in my opinion, of the show. So when people think back to what were the glory days of the Howard Stern show, you can absolutely credit it to the timeline of you being on the show. And heck, you wrote a book about it, so you can take partial responsibility for it.
Yeah, and I didn't write the book because I'm sitting here trying to like sensationalize my years in the show. If you look at I wrote a book because I got all these great stories, and I got tired of people going, "Oh my God, your stories are so great. Why don't you write a book?" I had one specific friend that I dedicated the book to. I worked. He was like the general manager for the Limelight. His name was Russ Bernelli, and he had a restaurant called Restaurant Bernelli on 75th in New York. And he from 1998 until about 2 years ago, I got tired of listening to his mouth about I should write a book. So I met my co-writer Jason Huza, and he's a writer. He writes plays and shit like that, and musicals, and I started telling him stories, and he wrote down 13 pages, and all of a sudden we got 2 chapters, then we got 3 chapters, and all of a sudden it was like, I got someone that advised me, just write the whole book and I'll help you self-publish it for free. Man, by the Ian Halperin, he's a best-selling author. He's written like 23 books. Yeah, Ian. So Ian was like, Grillo, this shit is fantastic. He goes, I usually get paid a lot of money to help people do this. He goes, I believe in this book so much, I'm going to do it for fucking free. And he just did it. He just did it. He just didn't want to help me he basically guided me along. It was just basically like, okay, now you got to take this and go here. And this, you got to pay these people to fucking get the book into print. You got to pay Amazon. You got to do this. He didn't edit anything. He was like, that's a great chapter. I can't wait for the next one. He's just very encouraging the whole entire time.
Can you do an Ian Halperin impression? He has that weird voice too.
He's very kind of monologue, like, hey, Steve, it's Ian. How are you? And it's funny when I make him laugh because he's like, so like, he'll go, no, that was funny. Voice. Yeah, that was funny. No, and I'm not making fun of him, but it was oh God, it's 6-3 Mets. Is that it? No, I don't know. I can't see it on my phone. Anyway, no, he's very monotone and very serious. But
Yeah,
I love him nonetheless. He's been nothing but a great help.
yeah. By the way, before I let you go, because we'll get the plugs, show the book again here in a second. Since you have the Mets hat, Soto, do you think this is going to be something, or is this going to be a kind of a disaster type that's waiting to happen? A couple of injuries.
I listen. Yeah, I know. Here's the deal. I was a huge Mets fan growing up. 86, 90, when they lost in the Subway Series. I decided altogether to give up professional sports or giving a shit about them. I just recently started becoming a Mets fan again, but like I don't like to get emotionally involved in sports anymore. But one of my best friends, Roy McDonald, he has the best goddamn season tickets. It's like 2 rows in front of Seinfeld's box, like we're only like right behind the home plate to the right. We have access to the clubhouse, not the clubhouse, but the restaurant that's right. We literally go up and we can like go and it's not free. That's the other one downstairs with it's another level of VIP. But excuse me, he's got these great seats, and I go like 8, 9 games a year, and just have so much fun. So I'm not like a detailed person with stats and this and that, blah blah blah. They watch every game. I watch the games I go to, and then maybe I'll see if they won. But like right now it's opening day, so I know I'm going to get blasted with questions by everybody tomorrow. Yeah, I just I have to change the setting on my TV to get it to move the screen. I can't see what the score is, but
yeah, I've kind of been that way when it came to sports. That I just especially after 2020 and them shitting all over us and canceling things and leagues and stuff. I couldn't stand it. And so what I do is I just watch old games. So I've actually watched a lot of old Mets games on YouTube from 1992, the year when they had Bobby Bonilla, Vince Coleman, Brett Saberhagen, and that team just stunk. It was what they call them, the worst team money can buy.
Yeah, but yeah, wow, yeah, that's a good thing to say. That makes sense. Yeah, because it was like they took all like the aging talent and gave them a shit ton of money, and like almost they were putting like a bull out the pasture, and they just were just like not there,
Yep. Now they still had Howard Johnson and a couple of others, but yeah. And
what isn't Bonilla still getting paid from that or something like part of his contract was he gets paid in perpetuity for the rest of his life or something?
I know Bobby Bonilla is getting paid I think for another 10 more years, getting paid.
Okay, yeah, there is some weird contract thing he had, right, where he doesn't have to do shit, scratch his ass and get paid.
That's so Mets of them, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, look at Soto.
Well, we'll see how that goes. Well, hey, Steve, I appreciate you coming on. Watching on the screen there, Gorilla Parts, top shelf stories from the most famous Stern intern ever. Just came out recently, and go check out his book. You see read some of those great stories that I didn't even want to ask you a lot of them because I want you people to go check out the book. So
I appreciate that. I think also I'm on Twitter at Steve Gorilla, and Instagram and TikTok is Steve Darth Grillo. No, yeah, Grillovator. Sorry, Grillovator.
Yep, I followed you on Instagram. I'll follow you over on Twitter.
Yeah. That always helps because like it's fun but now I got to use it to make a living. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, well, yeah, because we don't have PR agents anymore. We got to do it our fucking selves.
Shit. I stick a broom up my ass, I'll sweep too.
Exactly. Hey, Steve, I really appreciate you being on, and can't wait to post this and everything. And good luck with the book. Good luck with the tour and everything. And one of these days, we'll have to go.
Well, team, if you've got any friends out there in Cleveland that have a bar, I'll come out there and do a book signing or something.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get tattoos together, unless you're done with those.
Oh hell yeah! You should have recorded that, bro. That could went viral by itself.
Yeah, for folks who didn't see, when Steve accepted the Zoom request here, and we had about 5 minutes of him getting ready, and I just see a canvas.
Clothes flying everywhere. Yeah, my back is pretty much just one giant canvas. You could see in the background, like over there. I wonder if I could zoom in on it. That's my tattoo artist right there. I don't know if I can't zoom in on this one, but if this side, right there, that painting is from Needles, who did my back. No, I was looking for this shirt because I thought it'd be kind of fun because I haven't worn it in a while. Top shelf liquor, and the little kids reaching for a bottle of Jack Daniels on the top shelf.
I love that.
So I thought it'd be fun because I just did laundry, I pulled it out. I was like, oh shit, I haven't worn this in a while. So I thought it'd be fun to wear it on your show. Anyway, so you got a free show, by the way. So
Absolutely. Well, and this is a free show for folks who are checking it out on the podcast. And if you want more, go to Patreon at patreon.com/Tony Mazur. But if you don't want to give me money, give Steve money, give you his money for his book.
The Audible would be up tomorrow, by the way. You can get it on Audible tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, it'll be out by the time this comes out. But
no, the books are you can get the soft cover, the hardcover, and an ebook, and then the Audible will be available by tomorrow, which is by tomorrow is next week. So there you go.
Well, I appreciate it.
I did today. Actually, the Audible will be available today on your show.
Right now,
so exclusive, absolutely right now. Not tomorrow, today.
Let's stay in touch, Steve, and everybody else stay in touch. I'm on Twitter at Tony Mazur and find me there. Thank you, everybody, for checking out the Check Your Brain podcast. We'll be back with another free episode of this coming up for you next week, wherever you.
I want to know what's that in the background? The archangels? What is that?
What?
That's really cool.
It's St. Michael the Archangel.
That's cool, man.
Yeah,
I like that.
I would get that as a tattoo, but that would be like about $4,000, and I might need a couple extra.
Oh, you'd have to put that on your back, bro. That's a back piece right there. That's a back piece.
Absolutely. Well,
all right, man. I'll talk to you later, T. Thank you so much.
Bye.